Hello there, so today I'm going to be showing you how to Hackintosh, but the new way. There's no more worrying about losing all your information and corrupting your Hackintosh just because of a simple EFI change. We're going to be using the method of virtualization, which we're going to use a software called Proxmox, which is a type 1 hypervisor. I have a link on my website which will be in the description below, where you can follow along using a tutorial guide, but I'm going to be walking you through it in the video today. So first of all, we're going to need to make sure that our computer has UEFI boot methods. You can find tutorials online or visit the blog post below if you don't know how to do that, and we can walk through how to check. But if your computer supports UEFI booting, which hopefully it does, because otherwise we won't be able to do this today with Proxmox, and we won't be able to support 64-bit operating systems as much. So I'm guessing now that you've got UEFI booting. So first we're going to download the Proxmox image by going to proxmox.com, and we're going to head to the download section and the virtual environment section here. We're going to click on ISO images, and we're going to get the Proxmox ISO installer. So you're going to get a pop-up to download, and we're going to do that. As you can see, it's about 900 megabytes in size, so it's about nearly a gigabyte. Depending on your internet speed, mine's decently quick for today's era. It could take 1 to maybe 15 minutes depending on how good your internet is. So when you've got the image installed, which I have, we're going to use a program called Rufus, which is basically makes the USB drive. Yeah, you're going to need a USB drive, preferably over a 4 gigabyte size. It basically makes a USB drive boot an operating system. So we're going to download it by going to rufus.ie. If we scroll down here and click on the Rufus 3.20, or yours might be higher if you're watching it in the future, you click on that, just ignore the adverts and save it into your downloads folder, and we're going to open the program now. So this is basically the program. It might be hard to see, but this is what we get. So if you plug in your USB drive, you'll get for example, mine's a SanDisk. You get a device pop up there. I'm not going to do it because I'm actually going to be using Proxmox to virtualize Proxmox to actually show you how to install it. But on the selection part, you're going to actually select your ISO. So for example, I've got an older version of Proxmox here, and you can use that. If somehow your installation fails, you can download this program called Catalina, which is a good piece of software. Yet again, it's free, like so. It's the same principle. It shows you on the website. You select your image, you select your drive, and then flash. I actually prefer using this program than Rufus because it's more open source, and there's plenty of guides on the forums on how to do certain things. It also has validation as well to make sure that the image is fully written. But now I'm going to show you how to install it. So I've got Proxmox now loaded up in Proxmox, and I'm going to show you how to do it as if it were on bare metal. So we're technically booting up the computer now, and you're going to hold the boot option key, which is usually escape, F8 or F12. I know that for Asus motherboards it is F8, and you'll be greeted with a BIOS sort of boot menu section that should look a bit like this. You're obviously going to want to select your USB drive, but because I'm virtualizing this, it's a DVD-ROM instead. So you want to select it. If it doesn't boot first time, you want to change your secure boot configuration and turn that off, like so, and save and restart. Sometimes it can be a bit of a pain, which sometimes is true, but you should be greeted with this screen once you've booted up to your USB drive. You just want to press enter. Sorry about the screen flickering, it's because I'm virtualizing it. But we should get an IP address from our network, which it has grabbed 1.79, which is great. I also recommend at least a quad-core CPU and 8GB of RAM, because Proxmox itself uses 1GB of RAM. So bear that in mind. I'm just going to turn local cursor off. So it'll give you obviously EULA. You just obviously read all of it and agree. I've read it all. And you want to select the hard drive or SSD you want to install it on, which I have here. You want to select your region, mine's United Kingdom, and you want to set a password that you'll remember. And also set an email. Like that. Click next. Give it a host name, so I'm just going to do pv2.local because I already have one which I'm using to virtualize this. This should already be filled out. If it doesn't, you've got a problem with your network interface, and you want to use some forums on the Proxmox website on how to fix it. We'll click next, and then it's tell you what it's wanted to do. Make sure this is ticked and click install. Now, depending on your speed of your disk, it could take quite a while, or it could take a couple of seconds. But I'm going to show you. I won't make you wait, and I'm going to meet you back here when it's installed. So as you can see, it's on 99% now. Just installing grub, and then we should be greeted with a reboot screen. So here we are, it's telling you the IP address. Make sure you note that down, and it should automatically start to restart. So it is done for me. It says please remove the ISO boot media, so once you've done that, make sure you have, and we should be rebooting. So as you can see, we're greeted with a grub. I'm just going to press enter, or you could just leave it, but I've just pressed enter. So we're currently booting. Might fail because I'm virtualizing it, but as you can see, it gives us the IP. So we're going to switch over to Chrome, and we are going to type in the IP address. So what we're going to need to do is type in HTTPS and then the IP address, which I think is 79. Yes. And then colon 8006, which is the port. Press enter. Obviously connection is not private because it's a self-signed cert. The username by default is root, and then the password is the one that you set in installation. It is free, but if you need help, it's not. So we can see that we have a Proxmox, and as you can see, it's using about 8GB of RAM. But I'm just going to switch over to my Proxmox machine that I actually use. We're going to shut down this one, and now we're on Proxmox. So what we're going to do now is we've got Proxmox set up, but we actually want to get macOS on here. So you're going to download the macOS Catalina image. Now you can do this straight away on macOS using Catalina Patcher, or you can download an ISO, which I'll probably leave a link to below. It's actually a torrent file, but I think you can download it in alternative ways. But it's actually just an ISO file. If I show you the Catalina, and it's around 9.5GB, nearly 10GB, and you also need an open core ISO as well, which is about 160 meg. Once you've got them though, all you need to do is click on your node, click create VM, and we're going to create our first virtual machine. So you give it an ID. I'll just put mine as 110. We're going to call it macOS Catalina. We click on OS here within the top. We're going to select our Open Core ISO first and select the OS type as other, like that. For system, set the machine to Q35 and the BIOS to UEFI. That's why we needed UEFI before. And we're going to select where it's going to be installed on. Untick pre and roll keys and then go on to disks. We're going to select the bus, which is going to be VirtIO block, and give it a hard drive disk space, 120 gigabytes. You can click discard, which I'm going to do, or you can leave it. The CPU, we recommend 4 cores, and the type, we're going to search for Penryn, which is Intel here. No matter if you're on AMD or Intel, it will still work. We're going to click on memory. We're going to give it 4 gigabytes. And network, we're going to do VMware VMXNet 3. Click on confirm and then finish. Now you can see our VM is being created, and it's been created successfully. So once it's been created, we're going to go to the hardware section and we're going to add a new DVD drive, and we're going to add a Catalina installed ISO. Make sure it's on IDE 0 and make sure that's on IDE 2. Once we've done that, we need to go over to our node and go to shell, and we're going to go in the command line. Don't worry, it's not that scary. We're going to do nano etc pve qemu system qemu server, sorry, and then the ID of your VM, which is 110 for me, 110.conf. Click enter and you'll be greeted with some config file. If we go here, you can see we've got the 2 IDE devices. We're going to delete media equals CD-ROM and type cache unsafe, and same here. I'm going to type in cache unsafe. We're not finished here yet. We've got one more command, which I will leave in the blog on my website, which you can find below. So there's 2 different commands, whether you're on Intel or AMD. I'm on AMD, so I'm going to copy the AMD one. Copy. Then we're going to head back over to our virtual machine, which I will find for you now. Hold on a moment. And we are going to paste that in, like so. We don't need to change anything. Press Ctrl X, Y, and then enter. And then we go back over to our macOS Catalina virtual machine. You can see that our 2 ones are now disks instead of CD DVD drives. And now all we need to do is go to options, boot order, and make sure that we boot from our IDE 2 and then IDE 0. Click OK. We're going to start up the VM now. We're going to press escape, go to device manager or VMS platform config and set the resolution to 1920 by 1080. I'm going to reset. Then we should be booting into OpenCore. We press enter on UEFI shell, press enter again, and then on the shell we're going to do fs0 : system / library there, core services / boot.efi. Press enter, and as you can see, if everything's going correctly, we should be greeted with the macOS Catalina booting animation, which is great. I'm going to install it like it's a real Mac, so selecting the disks, formatting it and such thing. I've already got a VM set up, so I'm going to switch that right now. So as you can see, mine's just got the disk there, and we're going to boot into it. I've set the display resolution to 1080p in macOS as well, and it's booted off an SSD. So sometimes the display does this. That's the thing with using virtual machines, they don't always work. So there are some disadvantages, but I will show you the advantages once we have configured our VM. So it's basically just like full macOS at this point. The exact same, boots up the same. It just takes a bit longer than a metal Mac. But basically, all we're going to do is log in. So here we are, I'm logged in, and as you can see, it's macOS Catalina. If we go to about this Mac, you can see that it's an iMac Pro. We can change our configuration by downloading OpenCode Configurator, which I'm going to do now. So we search it in to Google. First link, Mackie 100's project. Accept. I'm going to download it. It has a lot of adverts on the website, but it's quite safe. So that's downloading. And what I like to do is download Clover Configurator. And you might think, well, I'm not using Clover, so why do I need it? It's to make the EFI partition. That's the reason I use it. It saves downloading third-party software that you don't know how to use. But when we've got both of them downloaded, first we need to open up the downloads folder in Finder. And we're going to right click on, we don't need to left click, we're going to right click on Clover Configurator and click open, which bypasses Apple's security checks on the app because it doesn't trust it. Now we're in Clover Configurator, we click mount EFI. Then we're going to mount the EFI on the ISO or USB that we installed it with. Enter the password, open up the partition, and copy the EFI file to the desktop. Once we've done that, we're going to click unmount partition of the DVD drive, and we're going to mount the main macOS partition. The EFI should be empty. If it's not, delete anything that's in there, and we're going to paste that in there. Once we've done that, we're going to shut down the macOS machine, and we are going to go to hardware, and we're going to remove both of the install medias and boot the machine back up, and we should now see that it just boots using the hard disk because we copied over the EFI partition, which indeed it does. So now we'll go on to what the advantages are of using Proxmox compared to just doing bare metal Hackintosh. First of all, it's better to use Proxmox because you have this feature here which is called snapshots. So what this is say for example I delete a file. So I've got this EFI folder on my desktop. For example, if I delete it and it's a precious file, so it's here on the desktop. If I take a snapshot, EFI, we take that, don't include the RAM. There we go, I've took a snapshot. If I delete this folder, so I'll move to trash, yeah, and empty it, and I'm like, that's an important document, I need it back. We go to snapshots, click roll back, yes, and let it roll back so it'll turn off the VM and start it back up again. So we're going to start it back up, and that EFI file should be back there. So if I press enter, this is for example, say you edit your EFI file and it bricks your Hackintosh, which many people face it, or you update to macOS Monterey, for example, and your Hackintosh is bricked, you can just roll back and it should just work normally, which is a great thing. And you can do a full backup, which isn't even a snapshot, it's an actual full backup of the machine in a couple of minutes if you're on SSD, or about 20 minutes on a hard drive, which is not bad at all. I also use it for gaming, so what it's on right now is running in a virtual machine, so I can use the same privileges, and as you can see the EFI folder is back, which is brilliant. I use a gaming machine, so this is recorded on my gaming virtual machine, which I've passed through my AMD Radeon 6500 XT through, and it gives up full performance. So you can basically turn one PC that can just either be Hackintosh and dual booted with Windows, or I can completely separate them by virtualization and isolate them. So for example, if you want to boot into Windows and it messes around with the Hackintosh partition, that it actually just works. So thanks for watching this video on how to Hackintosh using the new method in 2022 by using Proxmox. Thanks ever so much for watching. Goodbye.